Hi, hello. So today we shall be discussing everything about private limited company. So today I shall be discussing the entire theoretical portion, and tomorrow or maybe day after tomorrow I shall be discussing entire practical portion of how to set up the private limited company. Now, what is a private limited company? Private limited company is a privately owned business structure where the liability of the owners are limited and the shares cannot be issued or sold out to the general public. Like, it is a separate legal entity apart from the people who owns the business. This separate legal entity, the private limited company, can sign the legal contracts, buy the property, and it faces the debts on its own name, and the owners, called the shareholders of the private limited company, risk they risk the money only how much they have invested. Their personal property, their personal savings, their personal assets are protected, even though if the business fails or runs into debts. Now, when a person decides to start an entity, a startup founder has thousands of questions in his mind: how to set up the entity, which entity to choose, and based on the information that he has collected, the preferred mode by a startup founder is a private limited company, because of the investors' confidence and opportunity to raise the equity funding. But there is a high cost of formation, and a complex procedure has to be followed. Now, the requirement for starting the private limited company is that the first is that the essential things of a private limited company is that the members of the company, the minimum members required for a private limited company is 2, and the maximum are up to 200. But if 2 or more person are holding a share jointly in a private limited company, will be considered to be a single member, but the past and present employees will not be counted as member of private limited company. Then there is memorandum of association, that is a guiding document of the company, in which the name of the company is written with its name of the company is written with private limited કંપનીના નામની પાછળ લખ્યું હોય પ્રાઇવેટ લિમિટેડ કંપની. દેન ઇટ્સ રજિસ્ટર્ડ ઓફિસ, એડ્રેસ, ડિટેલ્સ ઓફ ધ રજિસ્ટર્ડ ઓફિસ, and the object why the company is formed, and the liability of what amount of liability which member has. That is all written in the memorandum of association. Then there is a article of association, that is a book regulating the management of the company. It regulates the relationship inside the company between the members. Then there are directors. The minimum 2 directors are required to set up a private limited company. And then there is the authorized share capital, that is to set up a private limited company, rupees 1 lakh of authorized share capital is required, which a company receives from its shareholders. Now, what are the other things that are required to start a private limited company? That is a digital signature certificate for the proposed director, that you can get from the government licensed certifying authorities like eMudhra, CFI, Capricorn, NSDL. And then you have to get a director identification number, that you have to go on the Ministry of Corporate Affairs portal, and you have to get this number from the integrated SPICE form, integrated SPICE plus incorporation form. And then you have to file for the PAN and TAN of the, that is PAN card and TAN for the private limited company. And for that you have to go on the online portal like Protein or UTIITSL, and that is for the PAN. It is the form 49A revised form, and for TAN it is form 49B. And for PAN it is rupees 91 including GST, and for TAN it is around 70 plus rupees for TAN, and the process takes within 3 to 7 days. And then you have to file for the memorandum of association and article of association online through the Ministry of Corporate Affairs portal in a INC form. 33 is for the electronically filing of memorandum of association, and INC form 34 is for electronically filing of the article of association. Then you have to file an application for the incorporation of the company with the registrar of companies within the jurisdiction of the registered office of the company. હવે તમારી જો કંપની વડોદરામાં registered office હોય તો that is એનું registrar of companies હોય અમદાવાદમાં. It is ROC Bhavan, Naranpura, behind the Ankur bus stop. But now everything, this process has gone fully digital incorporation process through the Ministry of Corporate Affairs portal. Okay, now you can do it online also, and physically you have to go to Ahmedabad. If your registered office is in Vadodara, the registrar of company falls at Ahmedabad, and then you have to open a current account in a bank, and in the name of your private limited company you have to give two names, unique names. You have to choose two unique names of your company and file for that as well. Now the Ministry of Corporate Affairs has by default prescribed a simplified pro forma in the name of electronically incorporating the company, that is by the SPICE, and you have to it is filed by the means of SPICE plus filing. Now the conclusion is that the private limited companies are preferred mode by the startup founders because they get a good opportunity to raise the equity in return of funding, and they can also issue shares to their employees, and in return they can hire a good talent. Equity funding is a process of raising money by selling the shares of ownership, and the sources are investors, capital, venture capitalists, and the public stock offerings. But in private limited company the shares are not offered to the general public, and unlike loan, this money needs to be paid back. Who are venture capitalists? Venture capitalists are the business firms or investors, those who provide capital to the small startup founders or small businesses with high growth potential, and in return of when they provide this money to those small startups, in return they get equity or ownership stake, and a good financial return when the business succeeds. Equity is the value of ownership you have in any asset or business after subtracting its debt or liability. And what is the difference between a limited liability partnership and private limited company? Now see, selecting LLP or private limited company, that depends on the goal. But the LLP offers low cost and it has a flexible management, where the private limited company has high credibility, and it has the power to raise the venture capital. The cost for registering the private limited company in India is up to, it starts from 12,000 to 25,000 for the basic legal incorporation, and now there is no minimum paid up capital requirement mandated by the law anymore. Now what is the difference between authorized capital and a paid up capital? Authorized capital and paid up capital. Authorized capital is the maximum amount of money a company can raise by selling the shares of the company, and this legal limit is mentioned in the memorandum of association of the company. They can sell only those amount of shares, and if they want to sell above that limit, then they cannot do that before changing the official rules of the memorandum of association. And paid up capital is the money that a company receives from its investors, જેના બદલામાં એ કંપનીએ ઇન્વેસ્ટર્સને શેર્સ આપ્યા હોય છે. So this is the difference between authorized capital and a paid up capital. And a private limited company can officially start with a nominal share capital of 5,000 or 10,000 rupees. Now what is the nominal share capital is same as the authorized share capital. The maximum amount of money a company can raise by selling its shares to the shareholders. Now the government fees and stamp duty. There is a state specific stamp duty for the PAN and for the memorandum of association and article of association, and for the government fees is around rupees 10,000 for the SPICE plus filing and for the PAN and DEN, and for the digital signature certificate, the process, that amount is up to rupees 2,500, and for professional fees cost up to 5,000 rupees, 5,000 to 15,000. that depends on the professional service provider, or you can also go through the online portal like Razorpay, Rise and Vakil Search. Now for the to open the current account in the bank, an initial deposit that is required is rupees 10,000, and for the trademark registration to protect your brand name with the government fees plus professional charges, it is up to 4,500, and for GST and MSME registration, that is the micro small medium enterprise registration, the free government fees it is, and the professional assistant cost will be up to rupees 4,500, and for the annual compliance and accounting, that is 15,000 to 30,000, and budget and extra 50,000 30,000 per year mandatory for the annual that is for the accounting, annual filing, bookkeeping. To find your company's registrar of company, that is ROC, you have to go to the Ministry of Corporate Affairs portal, go to MCA services, select view company, write your company's name or corporate identification number, that is a 12-digit number. You will get your કે તમારી company falls within which jurisdiction, and the registrar of company will provide you with the certificate of incorporation and PAN and TAN when you do all these procedures. Now what is EPFO? EPFO, that is Employees Provident Fund Organization, is a key government body under the Ministry of Labour and Employment in India, which manages the social security, pension, insurance and retirement saving of the salaried workers. And what is Employee State Insurance Corporation? That is a self-funded social security and health insurance program for the salaried workers. It provides the medical care and support of money for those workers who are ill during the illness, injury to the workers and their family or job loss. And this service is provided only to those workers whose monthly salary is rupees 20,000 up to 20,000 per month, and if he is disabled it is up to rupees 25,000 per month, and a company having 10 or more workers. Now to register a private limited company in Vadodara, the entire process is fully digital incorporation process, that is fully digital incorporation process through the Ministry of Corporate Affairs portal, that we shall discuss the entire practical portion tomorrow. So yes, this was what is a private limited company, and public company માં પાછળ લખેલું હોય limited કાં તો LTD, અને private limited company માં પાછળ લખ્યું હોય PVT LTD. That this is the difference.